You are listening to the Cambridge Insider Podcast, getting the latest updates on the international student market, education resources, and Cambridge news. In this episode, hosts Stephen and Mariah start fresh with Season 2 and refocus on the importance of international education.
Cambridge Insider Podcast time. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cambridge Insider Podcast. We've taken a little hiatus, a little rest time for the team here at the Cambridge Insider Podcast to reboot and revamp. But we are back with your favorite international education podcast that's streaming on all of your platforms, the Cambridge Insider Podcast. If you have forgotten, my name is Stephen Fanikak. I am the Regional Director of Program Management at the Cambridge Network. I work a lot with all of our programs in the US. We have some programs in Canada as well, but specifically our programs in the US to make sure that you could tackle this international education market as best we can. I advise on a lot of the strategy when it comes to how you can be successful as a program in the US, looking to recruit F1 and J1 students to your schools in the US. So it's wonderful to be back. I feel like I've missed the airwaves. I've missed all of our listeners. So I'm really excited that we get to kick this off. And even more exciting news is that I have a brand new co-host who's going to be working with me full-time at the Cambridge Insider Podcast. Mariah Thompson, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Yes, it's good. It's good. I've been on a guest as before on the Cambridge Insider, so it's cool to now be back as a co-host. I'm excited to give a little insight of what I know and what we'll be doing, but also just to get to know everyone else a little bit more too, which is cool. Cool to be able to be a part of it.
What episode was that you did appear on as a guest? It was one of our wonderful Cambridge Insider one of our wonderful Cambridge products.
Yeah. So currently now I'm the director of marketing for Cambridge, but before I was director of Cambridge Care, which is our student services, and I started the student leadership cohort. So I was learning a lot about kids and the students in the international program, intertwining them into what they could be. And then utilizing what I know. So that's what I was on the podcast before. But now I'm using the stuff that I was teaching them now into this too, which is really cool. So
very cool. Mariah, explain. I've gotten to know you a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked very closely together these past couple of months. You've been an incredible addition, not to the Cambridge team because you were part of the Cambridge team before, but to our sort of program management and program operations and business development team. If you don't mind just explaining to the listeners, what do you do exactly at Cambridge? Because I think it is pertinent to how the market has shifted, and many of our school officials that might be on this listening would find it interesting to know.
Yeah, so I am the director of marketing on the US side for Cambridge Network. So what I'll be doing now is if you're following us on any social media, you can tell in the last couple of weeks we've been posting a lot more than we usually do. So my job will be to help us create a face to show you all the things that we have been doing in Cambridge. I'm now putting out there publicly so you guys can interact with us. You can actually see what we're doing because we have been doing all these great things for students in our partner schools, but we haven't been putting it out there for people to see, which also allows other people to see it that can get involved into our company too and be a part of it that don't know what it is to have an international student program at their school. This is a way that they can see how we utilize our services to help them do that. So that's a goal of mine, is just to bring awareness of what we do to other students and schools around.
Very, very cool. Yeah. And it is so incredibly important. If you're a school official and you have received any new documentation, any new sort of flyers or content that's been created by Cambridge, it's very, very likely that Mariah has been,
yes.
The chief in charge of doing all of that. So it's great to have you on board. I think, we talk a lot about what you've been doing. We spoke a little bit about what I've been doing. And I think it's important as we reboot the Cambridge Insider Podcast, as we come back to the airwaves, to remind all of our school partners, all of our listeners, all of our students and families, about why we are in international education. I've for many, many years from a student perspective believed in, and I think it's still such a firm belief of the company in, diversity and how important that is, and the wonderful experiences that get shared amongst students and faculty and staff and a community when international students are involved. You're working with somebody that understands the world in a completely different way. And I think today, more than ever, without saying too much, I think we could all read into that. It's just important that we understand different cultures, that we are willing to work together and willing to listen and willing to just be harmonious in the way in which we interact. So, we're all for adding diversity to school campuses, and I know from a school's perspective as well, creating good, wholesome, value, laden programs, international programs is so important, and that's a big part of what we do at the Cambridge as well. So Mariah, I don't know what, if you want to add something to that, but I felt it was important to sort of just give a little bit about, why we are here as Cambridge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think recently, because of everything that's going on in the world, I've been looking at our mission a lot more, and what we strive to do is expanding human perspective. And I think that anyone who is in leadership or in education, that is a goal of yours, is to expand the perspective of young minds so that they can grow to be better leaders than we are. And I think having international programs allows them to see the world as the world and to not have inclusive mindset, but to bring everyone in, and that makes better leaders. So I think having those international programs at your school can only increase that for what you're producing, what you're growing, and seeing the future head into. And you can be a part of that because you're shaping their minds. So it's really cool to be able to be a part of that for sure.
Awesome. Our goal at the Cambridge Insider podcast, because we want to have a steadfast goal, is really twofold. We want to be able to provide you with the most cutting edge, up-to-date information. I suppose that's our main goal. And that really falls into what we've decided moving forward would be typically, we may deviate every now and again, but typically 2 episodes per month. We're looking at episodes again of around 10 minutes. We know that your time as a listener is valuable. You're either a student on the way to class, you're a school official who's on the way in the car potentially to school to go and teach or to go and do your administrative duties. So we want to, get episodes of about 10 minutes where we can give you the most cutting edge, up-to-date information that can inform the decisions you make, both as a school, as a student, as a family, as an international program. We would typically have one of those monthly episodes be just a market update. What's happening in the market? What's happening around the world? What should we be looking at, both as students and families looking for opportunities, but also for schools that are looking into the recruitment world? How can we add value? How can we be seen a little bit more? And then we certainly want to add a little bit of expert information as well. And we see that very much in the form of what Mariah so adequately termed resource talks. Excuse the mispronunciation, but resource talks, where we can use a lot of interesting, fascinating experts in the field of international education, in the field of education as a whole, to hopefully give you some information. So, Mariah, I don't know if you want to add anything there, but those are really how these podcasts are going to be structured moving forward.
Yeah, I think you did a good job explaining it. For the resource talks, it can be us going into more depth of a resource that we offer you straight through Cambridge, or it can be a resource that also we want to learn more about. So we'll be learning with you together, which is really cool too, by bringing in experts to talk about that too. So that'll be the second podcast of every month. So we're looking forward to that new aspect for the podcast for sure.
Very, very cool. Well, I'm super, super excited to have you on board. I'm super excited to be back on the airwaves, for lack of a better term. To all of our listeners, welcome back. Remember to like, listen, subscribe, and we'll be back for our next episode of the Cambridge Insider podcast. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Cambridge Insider podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode. For more Cambridge updates, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Have a great week and stay connected.